So, can a Muslim practice yoga? It's a huge question, right? One that really sits at this fascinating and honestly pretty charged intersection of ancient practice and modern faith. And it definitely sparks some intense debate. Let's get into it.
For a lot of Islamic scholars, and frankly a lot of believers, the answer is a pretty straightforward no. The common view, the majority opinion, is that things like yoga and meditation are considered forbidden, or haram. But is it really that black and white?
Well, that's where Osman comes in. He's also known as the blind Muslim yogi. And he doesn't just, challenge this idea. He completely lives in a different reality. He's a Muslim, he's a yoga teacher, and he's an energy healer. And he's been doing this for almost 50 years. So the big question is, how on earth does he make all of that work together? Okay, so let's break down how he justifies this. To really get his argument for yoga, we first need to understand where he's coming from with his own faith, because for him, that's the foundation for everything.
And look, he's not someone who's just kind of casually or culturally Muslim. He makes it super clear that he sees himself as a practicing Muslim at the highest level, someone who's all in. And to explain what that actually means, he lays out this really interesting 3-level framework.
So these are his 3 levels of faith. It's how he establishes his own credibility, and it's really key to his whole argument.
So here's how it breaks down. First, you have the believer. This is someone who just has that fundamental belief. Then you move up to the knowledgeable. This person gets the rules, the requirements, all the restrictions. And then, at the top, you have the practitioner. This is the person who is actively living it day in and day out, avoiding the major sins. It's a real progression.
Now, where does Osman put himself in all 3 categories? He basically says he's part of this tiny fraction of a percentage of people who are true practitioners. So you see what he's doing here? He's building his credibility from inside the faith before he even starts to talk about his practice.
All right, so with that groundwork laid, he makes this really interesting pivot. His main argument isn't about some deep, complicated theology. Nope, it's about something we can all understand. Just plain common sense.
He puts it like this. If you're cold, it just makes sense to put on warm clothes, right? It makes you feel better. Does that mean you shouldn't do it just because your religion doesn't specifically say go wear a coat? It's a powerful analogy, and it gets you thinking.
So this really shows the 2 different ways of looking at things. On one hand, you have the super strict interpretation. If it's not written down, you can't do it. But Osman's way of thinking, it's all about the result. If something is clearly beneficial, if it helps you and it's not breaking any major rules, well, then it's just common sense to do it.
And he's not just relying on analogies. He brings in the science. He points out that there are over 50,000 scientific studies showing the real, measurable health benefits of yoga and meditation. For him, this isn't just some fringe idea. It's modern science validating ancient wisdom.
And this all leads to a really, really important point for him. It's all about why you're doing it. The intention is everything. He draws this very clear line between wellness and worship.
In fact, he has a specific name for it, yoga wellness. He's framing his whole approach around this idea. It's not a religious practice. It's not a tantric practice. It's about using these incredible tools to make your health and your life better.
And think about it. Yoga can be used in so many different ways, right? For wellness, for peak performance in the military, for sports, even for business. He sees it as a toolkit. But the most important part, he says, is what you don't do. He's very clear. This means no worshiping other deities, no reciting religious chants from other traditions. That's the boundary.
Okay, so if you thought the yoga part was controversial, let's talk about energy healing. This is next level. How does he justify this practice, which he himself says involves using his own life force and comes with a real personal risk?
He poses it as this massive ethical question. Imagine you had the power to save someone's life, but it meant putting your own life on the line. What do? Is that forbidden? Or is it your duty?
And his justification comes straight from a principle in the Quran. If you save a life, it is equivalent to saving the whole of mankind. That's it. That's the lens through which he sees all of his healing work. It's not just about one person. It's about all of humanity.
So in his mind, this isn't some kind of religious violation. It's a duty. It's a massive blessing. He's actually said he'd be proud to die while saving a life. So he's taking what many see as forbidden and reframing it as the ultimate act of service to his faith.
If you want to explore his ideas more, you can find a lot more on his website,
yogawellness786.com. He goes deep into how he applies these ancient sciences from his own unique perspective.
And all of this really leaves us with a big question, doesn't it? Osman's entire argument hinges on being able to pull apart the science of yoga from its spiritual roots. It makes you wonder, in our modern world, where do we draw that line between a practical science for wellness and a spiritual path? And maybe more importantly, who gets to be the one to draw it?